days are cooler, nights are warmer, and I put the blame on you. Time moves slow, but my heart beats faster. When these eyes are looking right at you, you give me something to believe in, just what I needed. You're the closest.
Let me tell you, I came in, first of all, thank you for your tweet. You put out a tweet, the handy guide to understanding MAGA states' rights. and I think we do need to understand Project 2025 and what's at stake. So shall I read your tweet, or do you want to read your tweet? You want me to
That'd
read
be great. If you have it,
okay.
Read it. Yeah.
Okay. So she says, this is Rachel. Republicans want red states to be able to discriminate on race, national origin, religion, gender, and especially sexual orientation, which they define as a sinful, quote, lifestyle choice. They want women to be at the mercy of their reproductive systems, so we, all women, don't have economic freedom. Undermining our economic freedom is the entire point, not preserving babies, because there are a lot of babies that need homes and love. They're not spending not a dime or effort or energy with the foster care children that are out there that need to eat. They don't care if children are hungry or housed, only in the womb. So yes, Rachel, I think it is about that. They want the power to outlaw abortion, IVF, birth control, and porn. So we all can have bad sex. Feel ashamed about it, and make you pay the price for it. They want to be able to turn your public schools into MAGA-style Bible camps. I've seen that. They want to eliminate all federal environmental rules so they can go back to flagrantly poisoning poor people. When Republicans say they want to make America great again, this is what they mean. Are you being hyperbolic, ma'am? Are you doing too much?
I really wish I was. I mean, I can't stress enough the stakes of this election cycle and what's happening in Republican politics. So if you aren't following MAGA for a living and really in the weeds with, that movement, which is not a small movement, it's 70% of the Republican Party, right? You get to see some crazy stuff. But one of the things you'll see is and the book talks about this, they feed things up like talking points to normalize stuff. And one of the things that they've been trying to normalize recently, this last couple of years, has been this idea that America's not actually a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. And though in reality, folks, those things are not mutually exclusive. You can have a republic that's a democracy or vice versa, right? But in their mind, these things are mutually exclusive. And it's taken me some time to get my head really around what does this mean? What it means, folks, and I'm not kidding, is that they think the Constitution went wrong when it was amended in the second founding. We call the amendments that passed after the Civil War in the 1860s, what we call that is the second founding, because it's a series of amendments that really transformed the Constitution. And the way that it transformed it, folks, was it got rid of this idea that states had power, and it transferred the power to the people, enforceable through coercion or regulation or law or supremacy of the federal system. So when Republicans were bitching about states' rights in the Civil War, obviously it was the right to hold slaves. When they started bitching about it in the 60s, it was the right to segregation, right? And what they're arguing now is that the Supreme Court, the conservatives that they have on the court, should try to return America to its original upright design, which in their mind does not include equality for everyone.
So what does that look like? 866-801-8255. Everyone listening lives somewhere, right? I live in New Jersey, which I had the mayor of Newark on today, who wants to be governor of New Jersey. And we had a conversation. And New Jersey is one of the states that will give you Chris Christie and Chrissy Todd Whitman and then Jim McGreevey and Phil Murphy. Like it's one, like New York with Pataki and then Cuomo, Pataki,
Right.
But I don't ever fear living in New Jersey that I'm going to have my rights stripped from me. I feel like Jersey is going to step up. So how does this states' rights thing play out? Are we seeing that in Texas and Florida? Is that what it looks like? Arkansas and Alabama? Is that what it looks like? Louisiana and Tennessee, is that what it looks like?
Yes, I mean, it won't be all red states because, there are states where like Ohio, for example, that it's not a swing state anymore. It's lean red, but it's still competitive enough, right? Where I think you'd see hesitancy. But in these very solid red states, and most of the red states are quite red, folks, that means a super majority in the state legislature through gerrymandering and all of the statewide offices, right? Veto proof often majorities. So I think that's where we're going to start to see these. The American far right Nazi movement is funding a lot of lawsuits through something that they've created in conjunction with Project 2025. It's called America First PAC. There's a couple different versions of it, and one of them is America First Legal. And what they're using is our civil rights laws that were designed and passed to help equalized treatment and access of opportunity for minorities. Well, what they're doing now is they're, using the language of those civil rights acts to argue that there's racism and discrimination against white people whenever you're trying to do a policy that, enhances minority owned businesses, for example, or something that would finance women in particular. So that's what they're doing now. I think it comes down a lot to whether or not they have the federal government on their side as to how effective and how widespread it could become in a situation where Trump loses. I do think there's potential of a modern day version of what happened in the 1860 after the election of Lincoln. He didn't take office for about 4 months after election day. And in that time period is when the secession movement started. I think it's quite possible that we'll see red states just stop observing some federal laws, but let's cross that bridge when we get to it. And honestly, whatever does happen, it'd be much worse if Trump wins. And it's easier to be in a state that isn't under Republican control in terms of like stress level, right? Because in New Jersey, like you said, that you can expect there's going to be pushback to any kind of power grab like that. Same with Oregon. But a third of women live in the South. Almost all of our African American population lives in the South. Like these are millions of people who are going to be affected by this.
Rachel, I love the philosophy. I think you've given an excellent explanation of kind of how we get here and what this could look like in the event of a Trump victory. But I'm going to do what I usually don't do, which is give me 30 seconds on the horse race. I am personally convinced that Trump is going to lose. I'm saying that to America in this audience that I care about so much. I'm not saying breathe easy because there's a lot of work to be done between now and November. But I believe Joe Biden wins. Now, perhaps that's a far overly optimistic view of my fellow American, but I also am starting to kind of see the science. You're deeper in the numbers and the weeds than I, but I don't see it breaking for Trump because ultimately, 9 years into this Trump thing, I think we have maxed out on Americans who are just willing to throw the whole damn thing away. And to some degree, you have to buy in, and we're not growing a generation. Despite Trump's quote unquote appeal to these rappers and stuff, I don't believe we are growing a generation of young people who just turned 18 and are interested in completely tossing away the democratic experiment. So I think we've maxed out on crazy. I think Trump has hit a ceiling, and perhaps the statistician could say it much better than I, but I legitimately think he's hit the ceiling of people who are willing to take it there. So I think Biden's going to win. Who wins this election as of today, just based on your gut and your knowledge, not what the polls are saying to the American people on red or blue TV news channels?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I use polls as a tool, but not as the basis of my prediction.
Yes.
Never have, and certainly have decreased that after the polls have proven time and time again to not be great at horse racing. And we're asking them to do something it can't do anyway, because we need to know, is it going to be 51-49 for this guy or that guy? And the margin of error is 3 or 4 points. So it can't tell us, right? Here's where I will tell you guys where I am. And I'm not Nate Silver and Nate Cohen, Team Doom. I am not Simon Rosenberg, Hopium. I am, or Don, I'm jealous. I wish, because I feel like I'd sleep better at night. I deal in lead, right? I deal in data. And this is what the data says. It's got two competing stories. One of them says that Biden's going to be fine. We have abortion initiatives in a lot of the swing states. So not only should Biden be fine, but we should be able to pick up some things like the Arizona Senate seat that Sinema is leaving, and picking up Florida or something like that, right? Because these abortion initiatives can be tied to the Republican Party in the state and wedged. And if we do that, then we're not just going to pass these initiatives, because they're going to pass, I think, by like 60%. I mean, they're doing in red states at 60, maybe even 70 in other states, right? So we want to make sure that 20%, though, doesn't also vote for Republicans while they're protecting abortion in the Constitution. The only way to do that is to make that strategic argument. And so the theory of the case, folks, has always been that America is not watching this. You know, we talk about how the election's winding down, but it has not started. And it's not going to start until after Labor Day, because people have better things to do in the summer than do what we're going to do. And so the theory of the case has always been that once the electorate tunes in this referendum campaign that the Biden team's going to run, where they're really going to make the focus on Trump, is in high probability of working. But the real thing that makes it hard to predict is the presence of Kennedy on the ballot in the swing states, because in 2016, folks, we have some similar things happening. We have a electorate that's kind of burnt out. Okay, they're like, I don't want to be involved. In 16, turnout went down. Okay, and of that problem is in the blue wall states, we lost all three of them with plurality vote share for Trump. Okay, so he was like 46%, but he won those states because we did what felt good and voted for Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, or wrote in Bernie Sanders, or whatever it was we did, because we just figured everything was going to be, Obama's America forever. I do think that unlike 16, there is the appreciation of what happens with how third party defection can affect it. And, frankly, I'm surprised he didn't get more traction, but I do worry about that. And that makes it hard for me to tell you that what's going to happen. What I'm telling people is it's going to be a tight election. Don't expect a rejection of fascism at the ballot box. We're going to make sure that that's the central theme that voters hear, at least these out of touch voters will at least hear there's a crisis and that Trump is causing it. But a lot of people are, it's the racial change in America over the last 40 years, plus what's happened with women and gay rights. There is a very radicalized white population in this country. It has a lot of power. It has a lot of money, more money than it's ever had. Okay. And it is keen to stop what they see as the browning of America, by whatever means they have capable to do it. So it's just going to be a tough fight.
My days are cooler, nights are warmer, and I put the blame on you. Time moves slow, but my heart beats faster. When these eyes are looking right at you, you give me something to believe in. Just what